Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Investor Showcase put on by the Legal Innovation Zone at Ryerson University. My name is Chris Bentley, and together with Hirsch Perlis, we co-founded the Legal Innovation Zone 6.5 years ago. I just thought you're going to hear from some great entrepreneurs in a couple of minutes, have a chance to hear what they're doing, ask them questions. I'm going to turn it over to Hirsch in a second to make some introductions. Just thought I'd let you know what the Legal Innovation Zone actually does, apart from putting on investor showcases such as this. When Hirsch and I co-founded this, we did it because we saw an opportunity to support entrepreneurs and others who wanted to build better legal solutions for the consumers of legal services. Whether those consumers are individuals with lots of money or no money, whether they're businesses, large or small, whether they're organizations, for-profit, not-for-profit, law firms, governments. And so we've done it in 3 different ways. We started out with an in-person incubator where entrepreneurs were invited to come to our space in downtown Toronto and take their idea from just that, an idea, through to a concept, through to a marketable product. They've been supported by expertise, in-house expertise, and experts we bring in. Obviously, when COVID hit, we've been doing this virtually, and we support the entrepreneurs in a number of different ways. We've expanded that out to a number of online, interactive, expert-driven programs, concept frameworks, Sprint Studio, and I think at last count, we've supported over 50 startups through these various programs, 5 or 6 different continents they've come from. In addition to that, we support organizations, whether they're law firms, whether they're governments, the Ontario government, for example, Minister of the Attorney General, whether they're Canadian Bureau of International Education, which was doing some work in Ukraine. We support them advancing their innovation agenda. Whatever the agenda happens to be, we can support what they're doing. And we work hard to help modernize our justice system and have been involved in the family law space for several years. Have something called the Family Law Portal, where people who have separation and divorce issues in the province of Ontario can find information about their rights and about their responsibilities. So we're delighted you've joined us. For future events, of course, you can sign up to our newsletter. It comes out once every 2 weeks, and it's mainly pictures, so it's not terribly taxing to go through, but it does give you a sense of what we're doing, and we're hoping to have some in-person events soon. With that, Hirsch, let me turn it over to you for some great introductions.
Thanks, Chris, and it is fantastic to see everyone here. This is our first online investor showcase. Over the past few years, we've been hosting once a year, we do an industry night, and once a year we do an investor night, which is a great way to bring the community together and network and meet each other, have a drink and some food, and hear from some fantastic companies who either talk about the product or talk about the raise that they're currently doing. And so with the times that we're in, we are doing this online, and so we want to thank everyone for joining us today. We have, as I mentioned, 3 fantastic companies. The way it's going to work for the next 45, 50 minutes or so is each company is going to be introduced, and they're going to have about 5 to 7 minutes to talk about their company, what they're doing. And then we will take questions through the chat function. So please chat in your questions as people are speaking, if you have any, and we'll ask 1 or 2 questions of the founders as they go along. And then afterwards, after the 3 companies each present, we will have 3 breakout rooms where each of the co-founders will be in the rooms, and you can choose which rooms you want to go in to have longer conversations if that's what you are interested in. So thanks again for joining us, and we will move on to the companies because that's why we are all here today. So the first company up is CiteRight, co-founded by Aaron. He is fantastic. He's been in our space for a while now, and is a great community member, and so we are very excited to have him talk about CiteRight. So Aaron, the floor is all yours.
Oh, can you all hear me now?
Perfect.
Great. So let me just get this going. Okay, can you all see CiteRight up on the screen?
Perfect.
Fantastic, good. So Hirsch, I'll just start by saying thanks for having me here. It's great to be back at the Liz, even virtually. The Liz is really where we got our start. I know you've seen a number of iterations of this pitch and this presentation over the years. And it's really exciting about how far we've come from when we started into where we are right now. So it's really an honor to be back here. So Hirsch, as you mentioned, my name is Aaron Wenner. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CiteRight. And as I give this talk, there are three things that I want you to know about us really up front. The first is what we do. We are a collaborative tool for litigation teams. We help lawyers and their teams work together to research, gather, cite, assemble, and then deliver their legal arguments to courts and to clients. We are used now nationally across Canada. It's been a really strong couple of years for us. And the product that we built has really fit a need that was previously unmet among our customers. And finally, we're solving a problem that is global in nature. It affects lawyers all over the world, and it really couldn't be more timely in how we're solving it. But let me step back and explain a bit about who I am. So our process starts here. The way that we began was with me back in 2016, starting my career as a litigator on Bay Street. And I found very early on that every time it was time for us and our team to go to court, there was always a mad scramble the night before that filing deadline. And the work that we were doing had a lot to do with that final formatting piece, the final formatting tasks. We would have to make sure that our citations were organized and written properly in a way that fit with the Canadian standards. Every single source that we cited, every case that we cited, had to be assembled into a PDF and cross-referenced back into our main argument so that the judges could see what we were doing. It invariably took hours late into the night. And I had a young son and daughter at the time. I still have those kids, but they're not as young. And it didn't feel like a particularly meaningful use of my time. It would have made sense if we were staying up late to draft that perfect sentence or really craft the perfect argument, but that's not what we were doing. What we were doing was document assembly, which was necessary from a compliance point of view, but really felt like it got in the way of the main work that we were doing. And the reality is that assembling legal research was a problem for us and a problem for lawyers across Canada. It's a repetitive task. It's very stressful. The opportunity for messing it up and impacting your quality is very high. And the work very often isn't billable, or even if it is billable, you tend to write it down. And all that means is that as lawyers working for whom legal research is at the core of what we do, we all have less time for meaningful work because of the impact these regulatory requirements, these court submission requirements have on us. And given that the average matter takes about 20 hours to do, a full 10 hours of that, 50% of it, is spent doing document formatting, which doesn't deliver meaningful value to the client. Now, in a perfect world, there would be a tool that would work with the entire litigation team, one that would allow you to save your sources, your online research from online platforms, assemble it and collect it in one place so that other people in the law firm can access it later, so that nobody is searching for that one case that we need to put into the book of authorities. Allow us to collaborate on it, cite it, and then ultimately deliver it to courts, to clients, or even just in a simple PDF so we can have again later, or so that we can reuse it for another argument another time. And that's what we've built with CiteRight. We do have that single tool, that single workflow tool that helps everybody in that legal research process do their work more effectively. We help people save their online research into a shared library. We allow people to share and collaborate over that research while they're writing. And ultimately, we make it possible to assemble and deliver that legal research into a court-ready document in literally seconds, as opposed to 10 hours of work. The main impact to our customers is that we're allowing the people who work in those firms to high grade their time. Instead of having to spend that 50% of time working on non-value added work, we can spend the vast majority of it working on that value-added work. And so the impact for the firms is that they can reduce their lost billings and they can increase their profit margins by making sure that their people are working on the right things at the right time, or diverting them to other tasks if they can shorten some of them. The litigation teams themselves are a lot happier because they're working on value-added tasks, and because in a world right now where lawyers have never been more mobile, this keeps them happy and working on more meaningful work earlier in their career. And ultimately, it impacts the clients of those firms because they're receiving better service when the associates or the counsel they hire for quite a lot of money doesn't spend their time doing document formatting, and instead works on getting better results for those clients. So we've had a really successful run. We're now used across Canada and Canada's largest law firms who use us and pay for us. We found that what we've increasingly become a really critical part of these firms' litigation tools. We've done this by charging what we think is a really reasonable price for our product. We charge in 3 separate tiers: for solos, for smaller teams, and for national practices, regardless of what and we differentiate based on the types of services that we offer, the level of support that we provide. Ultimately, even at the highest price that we charge for the most extensive service, it's still a fraction of a billable hour. And our firms consistently say that they receive a strong return on investment to our product. Now, something interesting happened over the course of 2020. It was a breakout year for us. What we found is that suddenly with COVID, lawyers suddenly had to start working remotely. Their teams were all of a sudden distributed, and they just didn't have the tools to be able to operate in that environment until they came along. And so over the course of 2020 and this past year, we've dramatically increased our revenue and our customers. And we've also seen people become increasingly active on the platform thanks to the work that we've done to really focus on our customers' success, helping them adopt and engage and becoming trusted, valued partners with our customers so that they can really receive the return on investment that they're hoping for. But that said, there's still a lot of room to grow in Canada. We estimate that we have, even with the success that we've developed, only 5% of the market. There's a lot of large firms left over within Canada, within Ontario, and especially within Quebec, which is the next market that we're going to be launching into, and with smaller and medium-sized firms across Canada. But there's also a really interesting global opportunity that I want to spend the rest of our time talking about. What we've seen in COVID is not just that law firms or lawyers had to figure out how to work remotely. Courts have to do that as well. And almost overnight, courts had to transition into a fully digital workflow. They started accepting documents in PDFs as opposed to on paper. They've started having virtual hearings that required presentation materials. And all of that requires documents to be formatted in an even more elaborate and specific way than the old style book of authorities. And that's created tremendous administrative burdens for the profession. That also represents an enormous market opportunity for CiteRight. Whereas in the past, the people who were doing books of authorities and document formatting at the final end of the process were associates or articling students who, okay, they weren't charged, their billable hours were lower, and maybe there was some institutional processes built up. With the transition to digital submissions, everybody is scrambling. And we've seen among our customers, partners spending the entire weekend fussing with PDFs just so that it presents in the way that they need to, or the way that a judge would require. And this transition isn't just happening in Canada, it's happening globally. It represents a $15 billion opportunity when we look at all the litigators across the world. And we look at the needs of anybody, anywhere who answers questions with reference to case law or makes arguments to courts with reference to case law. And that's the opportunity that I'm here to present. That's what we're working on raising our next round of funding for. We're now raising $2 million to build on the incredible success that we've had and to continue building out an indispensable document assembly platform that is core to our customers' needs and ubiquitous in the way that it helps them collaborate. And so our first step is going to be continue owning the Canadian market. There's a lot of room to grow, as I mentioned. But our next step is going to be to launch in the United Kingdom. We're working with Allen & Overy, one of the top, the fifth largest law firm in the world, as part of their Fuse cohort to expand and develop our product for their needs and beyond. And the next step beyond that is going to be building the next iteration of CiteRight, one that continues to support customers in their digital workflows while allowing them to facilitate collaboration in even more extensive ways. And so that's why I think you should be investing in us. We've got proven traction from some of the toughest customers in Canada, who are in turn market leading. We've been first to market with a product that really is transformative. And there's a global market potential for what we're doing. So I'll leave that here. I know there might be questions either now or in the breakout room, but I'll thank you all for your time, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you all have to say.
That was fantastic, Aaron. Thanks so much for that. And I think everyone can appreciate what a great job you've been doing over the many years. So this is fantastic. I think we will save questions for the room. I saw Michael had a question, but we'll save a few questions for the room and move on to CUS translation. Aaron, thanks so much for that. Aaron was one of the earlier entrepreneurs that moved into the legal innovation zone a few years ago, and CUS translation is one of the newer customer founders that moved into the legal innovation zone since COVID started. So he has never seen our space, but has been involved over the many workshops and other ways that the community gets together over the last 18 months. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Hirsch. Hi, everyone. It's great being here, and just give me a second to share my screen and start my presentation here. Okay, so okay. Yeah. As a head of tech company, it's not a good vision to give this kind of screen. Okay, so basically, I'm the Junaid, CEO of CUS Tech, and CUS translation is our main service as CUS Tech. We focused on the translation interpretation services and creating solutions for that. And with CUS translation, actually, we decided to change the way of doing business in translation services. And if you had any translation needs, or any of your relatives or your clients' needs in translation or interpretation, you know how it's difficult to get the service. So you have to get in touch with the agencies or translators, and they're just getting in touch with the translators, and it's kind of a cycle, and it's taking so much time and effort, and also because of the overheads, the expenses are getting higher, and the quality is getting low each day, because they try to be competitive in price-wise, and they also want to for this reason, they just want to pay less to the translators. So it's dropping the quality. But we came up with an idea of providing the service through a portal and multi-platform service. So you can use your mobile phones or your laptops to get the service. And by this way, we started our journey on 2016. Now we are moving forward with over 12,000 translators, which are picked very carefully and procured very carefully in 176 languages. And you can use our system in any platform you prefer. And when we say translation, as you know, many businesses are just owned by some brands, but when it comes to translation, there's not any name in people's mind. And mostly when I ask about translation, any company in your mind, people say it's Google Translation. But as lawyers, you know, it's not solving any issue, and it's not what you are looking for. But the market is growing up so rapidly because east part of the world is moving to the west. And west part of the world is trying to localize in the east and trying to sell their products there. So there's a really great graphic, which is showing us that the business is growing rapidly in the global market. So we started our journey on 2016, and luckily many organizations and customers interested in and find it useful. With that way, we reached to really huge variety of customer until the big calamity came. So We started on 2016, as I said. 2018, we were ready to sell on the May of 2018, but we started to create our service really eligible for lawyers on 2019. And with the investment of $2 million on the May of 2019, we created our sales team and started to sell our service. Until COVID comes, we were increasing our sales 33% every month. With COVID, we hit it, of course, and because we focused on the immigration lawyers mostly, but it gives us another chance to develop our platform and service. And here's the COVID effect. As you see, everything just went bad on the time, but it helped us to make the service better and think of new ideas on translation services. It gives us a chance, but now everything is back in track, and we are going really good and started to increase our services. The registrations were increasing rapidly before COVID. With COVID, we just had a few months of standing, but later on we continued our registrations, and basically in our system over 350 lawyers are registered and ready to use the system. The revenue model is super easy. We are paying 67% to the translators, which is providing us better quality because we are paying 30% more than the average of the market to keep the best translators and interpreters, and 40% goes to, sorry, 40, it will be so high. 4% goes to the transactions, and 29% is the cost translation commission. Not just the lawyers were targeted, so some organizations we got in touch, and we UNHCR Mexico, actually Comar, which is working for Canada refugee programs, offered at the end of April 2020, which is a contract annually $20 million worth. We stopped because of COVID, we stopped the process, but last month they got in touch with us again to start the process. So we prepared a new proposal and waiting response from them. So which is really, really great opportunity, and hoping to open new opportunities for the company. But as I said, this time in the COVID time, we didn't stop with the development team. We started to work on a new idea, which is about certified translation. So certified translation, as you know, requires a stamp by a certified translator. We've started to think how we can make it easy. You can get the service right now from COS, but there's an easier way to get the service, because forgeable seals, the expensive and slow delivery options, and file stamping thing, time-consuming things are really trouble in this business. But if we will use blockchain in this technology, and this is what we developed, is providing us a better way. With the digital tokens we created for translators, it will be trackable, and this technology will help people to get the service online, the translation service, certified translation service online. So another patent pending, we applied for patenting our solution on blockchain, but at the same time, we are hoping to create actually we created the system, but we are hoping to create a popularity on COS AI, which will provide Google Translation kind of fast service in human translation services. The idea is basic. You have some sections on a document which are translated a golden translation, and if they translate in the same way, the system is not sending it to the translator again, just sending the other parts of the document to translate, and these parts are less, they're going to pay less for that, and we are paying to the translators if they going with us as with loyalty, if they continue to buy their annual loyalty coins, we continue to pay. So sorry, Hirsch, how many minutes I have left? One. Okay. But as I said, none of any company really get in this certified translation services. They are going through individual translators, as you know. We want to be a brand on this. The market potential just in Canada is over 1 billion in upcoming 2.5 years. But there are other options and other potentials in UK with over 600 million pounds, and in EU it's over 4 billion euro. So how we're gonna use this money? Lobbying to the government for providing service with blockchain. So many companies are doing that to go with digital IDs and that kind of stuff. We will just join them. And also we want to be a leading global brand. In people's mind, we just want to be there when they need translation, especially the immigrants, the individuals. We have a great team of 22 people and continue to work and provide the best service ever. So we are looking for $2 million to raise for expanding our service in EU and completing our lobbying process. Thank you. Sorry, I exceed my time, I guess. Sorry for that.
Oh, no, that was right on time. That was perfect. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. And yeah, you are adding some Cuz AI and a little bit of blockchain, and that leads nicely into our next company called Vaultie, who is founded by Mayor Mechanic. And Mayor, the floor is all yours. But you're on mute, Meyer. Meyer, you're on mute.
There we go. Off mute. Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Hirsch. I'll give everyone about a second or two to breathe before I dive in. But yeah, as Hirsch mentioned, my name is Meyer Mechanic. I'm the founder and CEO of Vaultie, and we do digitally ID integrated documents. So I woke up to a little bit of a horror story a couple of years ago, where I had started to realize that digital signatures, even though they were super convenient, weren't working in the way that we needed them. And it's a nightmare that a lot of people have started facing now today. When you got your vaccines, for example, the first certificate that Ontario put out was digitally signed. The problem was places like Ryerson or businesses needed a way to verify that. So we could prove more that instead of your computer being the thing that clicked the button to sign, we needed to prove that you were the person that signed it and that you were the person who this document was issued to. And the farther we dived into that, the more we realized that digital signatures suffer from something that is commonly called in the digital identity circles called a PKI fallacy, which is that the way that they work is that these computers connect, but they can't go one level further and connect the people to the documents. And this is a huge deal. In 2020 alone, financial fraud, driven mostly by identity fraud, rose by 159% in Canada.
Meyer, I'm not sure if you're sharing the right screen.
Can you not see my deck?
Yeah, with the top part also.
With what?
Yeah, we can't see the presentation mode. We can see the editing mode, but not presentation mode.
Oh, yeah. I can't find the button right now, so I'm just gonna go through editing mode, if that's okay.
Just keep going.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. So identity fraud, financial crimes driven by identity fraud, it's at 159% in Canada alone. Ontario, which recently came out with its digital ID platform, estimates that solving this one issue just in Ontario is a $20 billion problem. Translating that to national, it's $53 billion. And that aligns with what other provinces are seeing as well. Saskatchewan, BC, which has already issued a BC ID. And that trumps even JP Morgan's estimate, which was that the digital signature market alone is $25 billion. So we needed to come up with a solution. We saw this problem. And the way we had thought about it was integrating digital identity into digital signatures. So digital identity We're doing KYC and compliance for lawyers. So that is when you sign up for Vaultie, we scan your driver's license. We test it 14 different ways to prove that it's a real driver's license. We can do 4,000 types of IDs from 195 countries. And then we use facial recognition to match your face to that of the driver's license, which matches FINTRAC's level of KYC standard, which is the highest in Canada and one of the highest in the world. We use that to create something called a verifiable credential. We'll show you about on the next slide. And we integrate that into a digital signature and store all of the information on blockchain. And what that means from a verifiable credential standpoint is that if you're the issuer, let's say you're a government or a notary, or a law society, you can issue a credential to somebody. They can wield it autonomously. It can be proven that you had issued it to them through blockchain. And then anywhere you go, those documents can be verified later. So a perfect example of that right now is if you downloaded the vaccine passport, the government issued that credential. It's sitting on your phone and you can do with it as you please. And anywhere you go, somebody can verify that without having access to your sensitive information. We also do that with notary seals in Ontario, and we're rolling that out across the rest of the province, but can also do that for other credentials, accredited investor credentials, or even just signing credentials, which allows us to produce credentials to link somebody to a document. So for customized documents, so something like a contract, users can upload and send documents for signatures, similar to how you would on any other digital signature platform. They can also collect KYC, so your driver's license information and specific information, so long as it's consented by everybody. This becomes really important for lawyers, for financial institutions, for governments, to be able to prove the things that they need to be able to prove for compliance. Every signer on the document has their identity verified. Then are issued signing credentials, and they can also be issued professional accreditations if we can verify them. Documents then get signed with a biometric signature. We take another selfie when you sign a document and compare it to your profile to prove that you are in fact who you say you are when you're signing a document. And then every document when printed comes with a QR code that'll show similar information to what your current vaccine passport shows. It will show you a selfie, it will show that you signed it, it'll show the blockchain links to the credentials and the original documents. So now we can create a document that can be checked against for fraud. We can check exactly who signed it, and you can have all of your compliance moving along with your documents. And they can be verified anytime. This is an actual document that I signed with my product designer the other day. If you guys scan this QR code right now, you're actually gonna be able to play with it. You can see the original document. You'll see my face. It'll look like that. You'll see my product designer's face. I think he was in his pajamas. But you'll actually be able to see who verified at the time, where that went. And when this gets applied to financial documents or legal documents, you have that much more claim when we start talking about the high risk stuff. If everyone's had a chance to scan, if you are going to, I'm going to move on to the next slide. If you haven't, just talk. But this is a growing business. So we sell packages in either predetermined or metered sizes. 52% of the lawyers in this country are small and individual practices. They're not going to sit there and buy 10,000 signatures at a time. We can't be KYC giants just yet. So we're starting with small and mid-sized law firms. They're often priced out by the KYC companies. SecureKey, which is kind of the standard in Canada, charges about $10 a KYC check. We're $6.50, and we have the same level of authenticity. As we grow, we're also going to sort of larger legal and financial compliance firms that need this along with them. We actually have contracts and MOUs with some of these firms already, and they need more of a vertically integrated ID solution, so something that can remotely collect their KYC, attach it directly to the documents. That happens a lot in law, it happens a lot in finance. There's also a big market in there in mortgages. When we get much, much bigger, there's a lot of room in sort of fintech and insurtech on transactions. because you can link compliance to direct assets. We've had conversations with companies about linking NFTs or crypto transactions to compliance, proving anti-money laundering was done as it goes through. And then the largest sector here, and this is actually a sector that I can't really talk about specifically unless under NDA, is governments, where we're being talked to by governments about doing their digital driver's licenses, doing their digital health cards, doing their access to government services, because we can prove exactly who logged in, exactly who signed what, and prove that a document hasn't changed. We've got competitors. There aren't a lot who do specifically what we do. There's a couple of digital identity companies. We're friendly with a lot of them. Most of them are in the healthcare space right now. And they're sort of doing medical records checks going along. There's the digital signature companies, which can't really compete with us because to fundamentally do it, they need a blockchain-based digital signature, which would require completely redesigning their architecture and incurring costs that they don't want to do. DocuSign alone said that their cost of goods sold would go 3x if they were to try to do a blockchain-based signature. And then there's the other KYC verification companies. We're the only one that's capable of sort of vertically integrating all three. That sort of makes us a little bit different. Traction to date, 2021 was a little bit of a rough month. We switched our CTO in about June, but we did raise about 350 to build it. We've built it. We're now going back out. We've landed $50,000 in ARR in MOUs. There's another 50 on the immediate horizon and about 200 sitting in the pipeline that has sort of been waiting for us to start moving along. So we're in there right now. We're actually onboarding first clients this week again. We've got a new CTO who worked on the British Columbia ID card that's been out there. And we've already produced the first tangible, usable, verifiable credential in Canada, which we're currently using for Ontario notaries. There's a couple others that have sort of come out since. Based on that, we actually think we have pretty reasonable forecasts. We think we're going to be doing about 78,000 documents in 2022, which should hit ARR at about 480 if everything works as it should. There's a couple of boons in that model that we didn't factor in, that if they did, obviously our lives all get a lot better. And in order to sort of make that all happen, we're going out right now. We're raising 350 just to sort of bridge us on our first set of sales before we go out and do a real seed round. I guess a little bit about me. My background, I'm a recovering investment banker. I'm sorry to everyone on this call. But since then, I've turned it around and started a career in digital ID, won some awards with the Digital Identity and Authentication Council of Canada, and am now sitting on the committees building out what are acceptable uses of facial recognition and KYC and identity going forwards. Matt Rappert, some of you guys might be familiar with from the past, has worked on a couple other major blockchain companies, including the BC ID card that came out last year. I think I'm past my time because I talk a lot, but I'm going to pass it over to questions. And thanks all for listening to my story.
Thanks so much, Meyer. Really, really appreciate that. And I'd like to thank all three companies and founders for coming out today. That was fantastic. I really thought all three presentations were great. Now we are going to go into the breakout room part of the session. So I will open up the rooms. The three founders will be in their own rooms, and all the participants can choose to go into whichever rooms they want if they have more specific questions and want to have longer conversations with the founders. The rooms will be open for approximately 30 minutes. You can jump in and out of different rooms. You have all of the control. So I will open up the rooms now, and that will be, it was fantastic having everyone. And obviously, please, if you haven't signed up for the Legal Innovation Zone newsletter to learn more about our upcoming events, please do so. And it was great having everyone. So the rooms will be open.